你要不要在这个？
Sana şurada
Bak burası da tatlı geldi.
Boy. Я не понял, что у них рублей 50.
Passare alla sombra.
No, o mesmo não estava tão bem na hora.
Girdim içeri baktım Allah Allah. 就最近马达的那个是我那个粉。
What is your plan for today? We're just gonna walk around. I think eat. The stomach's hurting, so we gotta go to the store and get them like a splint. That's what I don't think they have anything really planned. Just hang out, walk around, look at the sights and everything.
Are you Valderita?
Yeah.
Yeah. So usually it is. And you Oh, I forgot.
Yes, we're learning.
So little. It's like a process. Yeah. But I like have some of my favorite words
Ogni volta che li vedo penso a una vena rossissima e poi mi rendo conto che non è una vena.
In realtà a me facciano tutto rosso.
Cioè, mi rendo conto che queste five.
When you get to work? Yeah, but that's and that's wait, but that's
It's an amazing story about the Black Crowes.
Okay. Okay. What's the legend? Portuguese, only local. I don't go touristic places, okay? Local, so it's cheap, right?
már túl vagyok rajta, de
Mami, samo vi pričate. Vagyon
Oh, let's show the other side. Prices are better. It's really nice to see. So people do this. If you have both these. So this is the area. This is Alfa. This is the old it's one of the parts that is raised by the 755 earthquake.
What would you like to drink?
Crazy.
There were always two roads.
Mas você só gosta do prova e acha que empata ali. Às vezes, né?
Farelas. Then the Portuguese king conquered the castle from there, the rest of Portugal. Conquered the castle over the land in 47. There was no and then on 1147.
Do you like this?
I like the heart. I think it's the sunset here is amazing. It's much crowded here. Sunset. And I like to finish the last part of the tour around here because you can see almost everything. It's the best. The other side of the river, still it's Lisbon, but the other side, it's a little bit more about the suburbs and the little industrial. The principal part of the city is on this side, you know? You don't have anything special. It's just suburbs and
Yeah, so sometimes very uneven because of the route. But yeah, beautiful. Amazing.
something on the tuk-tuk. Have a look around, okay?
Okay, sure.
Daddy, is it like 12?
It's like 2, I think. Yeah, it's 2. You see our hotel?
You said it was. There,
Where's the...
there's a little white
Yeah, the
building.
bridge.
All the red roofs.
I can't even find where...
I can't either, Timmy. I'm not even surprised.
I can't even find it. Maybe this one has a hair on it. This from the ones that don't have like black. Find the ones that don't have. Find the ones that don't
아, gledaj malo ka Lukasu, nemam baš toliko.
저쪽에
네, 파스트.
야 우리 남산같이 남산하고 똑같아. 여기 올라오는 골목길이 있어 중간에. 아이, 그러지 마시오. 어? 그래도 이렇게 올라오는 너무 그려졌지. 소나무가 너무 멋지.
How far is it? No worries. They will have a look. Mostly going out. No.
टाइम लगता है इधर दो रहे दो लोग ऐसे हैं दो लोग इस साइड में बैठे हैं दो लोग
Many factors for this. One of the things they found very important is the fact that there is no terrorism. Never terrorism. They already experienced. Like
Let's take a good photo and then you explain the movie. And there was this guy with a guitar.
A gente veio descendo do hotel pra cá. Sim.
Vocês fazem confiar com aquela celular
Kahve kilitler. Ondan saya sürecini çevirir.
Hi there. It's not for a drink or food?
It's a little drink.
Fotoğraf geldi de ver tamam pancayı. It's back away. Bak burası da farklı bir yer.
That's right, he kept talking about it.
Ah si, il y a le métro. Non, c'est le bus, nous. On n'est pas... on va l'arrêter plus proche ou pas? On y va, Lucas?
Así, y en cuanto a figura, sí.
Então, beleza, amiga. Qualquer coisa, você me manda mensagem, daqui a pouco já tem que levar coisa pra casa.
Guys, come on, sexy people, bora beber, malta! Portugas, mostrem lá esta gente como é que é. Bebam.
Super tranquilo,